Welcome, y'all, to the podcast. I am so excited. For those of you who don't know, who these people are to me, this is Ahmad, Rashad, and Toya, and they are just like killing it, taking over, and one of my favorite absolute couples to be around and be in the presence of. Ahmad is actually my podcast coach, so he's the one that has made this whole thing possible, and getting him in front of the camera and on the mic is a big deal. And Toya has an acclaimed podcast called The Relations Shop, and they are serving so many people with her messages and their lives. And I'm just really eager that you guys could be on. And this is actually a landmark moment for the Single or Divorced podcast because this is the first married couple that has actually been on the podcast. So this is a very landmark moment.
Awesome.
And if you guys want to share anything else that you have going on that you want to kind of just let the audience know about.
Oh, I'm just glad to be the first. It's like, I feel like the same week, that we able to be the first, this week on your podcast is going to be a week that we'll always remember with your followers and for us. So appreciate it,
Yeah,
so
just appreciate the invite.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
I appreciate you guys accepting.
Right. Well, you kind of twisted our arms a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Probably Toya's not as much, but
mine, it's like make some room in that calendar, Ahmad. Come on now. So awesome. For you, no. Of course, being on the show, it comes full circle. You have a wonderful podcast. Miseducation of Masculinity is also a great podcast. Of course, I have to do that plug for you. And you're a great speaker. I love your voice, and how you come across, the way that you think. It is definitely coming full circle to be on your show, and I'm honored to be here tonight. So
awesome! Thank you guys so much.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into it. So today we're talking about the marriage and the divorce institution, right? So a lot of people think, when they're getting married, that they're entering into the marriage institution. Where we're actually finding is that more people are subconsciously entering into the divorce institution. So we're going to talk about that, the ways that we create division between us, immediately entering the marriage without realizing it, right? So let's kind of get started. And if you guys don't mind just sharing a little bit about your story and some of the challenges that maybe you've experienced in your own marriage and how, you kind of worked through that.
Oh gosh, you go for it, Toya.
I was gonna say,
your story sounds better. If you want drama, let it come from Toya.
Are we ready to get into this?
I am ready.
Yeah, she's like, right. What's the tea, sis? That's what she's right. Tell you right now.
But we dated for about 7 years.
Yeah.
Before we got married.
That's a good round number.
I would not recommend for anybody. But it's that's our past though. So we dated for 7 years. Yeah. Got married, and it's crazy because right before we hit the 7-year wedding anniversary is when everything fell apart. Mm-hmm. So mind you, at this time we are both heavily serving at church. We have a son, he was probably like 3 or so by then. And we were serving in couples ministry, doing missions trips, multiple mission trips. And so it was just, hey, what's really going on? But the root of that was his expectations of what a wife is supposed to be, and me not really understanding how to respect my husband. And also not really understanding what a true friendship is like in a marriage.
Oh, yeah.
So when I really, before I go there, so that's pretty much the downfall. So in that moment, like I knew something was off, but I've always heard people say, in marriage, you go through tough seasons and you bounce back, or, things like that, just regular worldly things. And so it's just like, okay, we've been together 14 years, going on 14 years total. So I'm like, now this is the first time something just doesn't feel right. But I'm just like, it happens to everybody, and we've gone this long and it's just not happening to us. So no big deal. Let me just keep on about my business. You know, like we'll fall back into place somehow.
Like automatically fall back into place, right?
Exactly.
You know,
But that was when literally like everything fell apart.
Yeah, so it's like, so for me, you know, it was like the experience of like 1,000 paper cuts, right? And you just get cut, you know, every 2 months or whatever, right? And with Toya not being aware that she's cutting me, you know, it just builds up over time. So, and it's like, you know, I would tell her all the times, like, you know, it's not Toya's fault. Like, Toya, it's not your fault. You know, it's like, it's just, you know, society, the way you know, you're brought up and things of that nature. You know, you all you have your own way of viewing things. And me talking about, you know, what I feel like is disrespectful, she's like, you tripping, you know, you're a middle child syndrome and, you know, stuff like that.
I would say that to him all the time. He's like, man, don't you want to come do this with me? Or let's do that. Or, hey, let's have this conversation. Or he's just like, I'm just not really feeling well today. Or just, you know, I mean, anything. And my go-to was, oh, why are you so sensitive?
So paper cut, right?
Like, oh my goodness. Middle child syndrome, because I am a firstborn. Right. So number one, I'm a firstborn, right?
Okay.
So I have
I get it. I
have a really strong personality, okay?
Yeah.
And I am short.
Yeah.
Let me just go ahead and put it out there.
Napoleon syndrome.
So I'm short. Thirdly, I come from a family where the women pretty much do everything.
Right. You know? And fourth, she's from a town called Garland, Texas. G-Town, and they are really ratchet out there.
That has nothing to do with anything.
They're ratchet and Garland.
But going back to the women, because there were men, of course, my parents were married for 27 years. I was an adult when they divorced, right? And mostly everybody was married, but the men kind of just sat back and let the wives do everything. And so that was how I grew up, thinking this is the way it's supposed to be. Like, I need to be in control. I need to be in charge. And you go over there and you're good. But what I didn't realize is I married a man that, number one, is an alpha male, right? And number two, he came from a house where his parents were together. His parents loved each other and held hands and were best friends. And I came from a family where my parents were together. They didn't argue, but I didn't see them hold hands. I didn't see them go out on dates. I didn't see any of that. They were friends that lived together, that had kids. And so I'm like, as long as I'm doing better than that, meaning we're friends, we serve in church together, we take trips together, we laugh together, we date. So I'm just like, so we're good. But it was the deeper foundation that was not there, but I wasn't aware because I was doing better than my parents.
I see.
Right, that's good. And see, and this is where like my poor expectations come into play, is because like, you know, what I saw growing up, you know, is, you know, my father, military man, you know, we had that type of structure in our home. So my dad, when he comes home from work, he's always asking, where's your mother? You know, and I see him, you know, grasp my mom and he'll dip her and kiss her and stuff like that. Like, he romanced my mom, right? And he would sing to her. And, you know, these are the things that I saw growing up. So because of how my father would treat my mother, you know, I got a chance to see how my mom prepared for my father, because as you know, she was a stay-at-home mom, and I'm growing up. So I'm seeing my mother, you know, doing things that's traditional, that will be considered traditional today, but she would clean the house, she would cook, you know, and make sure the house was prepared. And not only did she make sure the house was prepared, she was also preparing herself. She would take a shower, she would put on makeup, she would do her hair. If she was wearing her pajamas all day, she was not wearing pajamas when my father came home, you know? So she presented herself for my father, you know, and they've been married for over 40 years today. And so when you're a kid growing up, you know, you're like, man, I know how to treat a woman, right? and so here I am, I'm doing some of these things for Toya, but I'm not seeing Toya acting like my mother.
Right.
And this is where can you start seeing where this issue start happening?
Yeah.
Folks tell us.
Right.
Yeah.
And so by him having the expectations of what his mom modeled, and my mom was not a stay-at-home mom. My mom worked.
Yeah.
And my dad, he worked, but it wasn't consistent like my mom.
Yeah.
So it was like it just wasn't consistent all the time. Yeah. And so I'm looking at it like, well, I'm thinking of my mom and how I grew up. My mom would come home from work. We're all like, hey, what's for dinner? And it's just like, man, I'm tired. I've been working all day. Where's your daddy? And so now I'm looking at it like, wow, you want me to go to work and be like a stay-at-home mom at the same time, like that. Yeah. And really, that wasn't what he wanted from me. Like, he wanted more of just the nurturing, just the understanding, just the love is what he wanted. Yeah. But in my mind, I'm just like, I'm not a stay-at-home mom. Stop comparing me to your mom.
Yeah.
Like, so that was all I was getting from it, was like, I don't love to cook. Right. I cook because we need to eat and because it's healthier, but I don't love it. Exactly. Cleaning, I don't have time to clean. Right. But we can budget for a maid service, so we need to do that. So it's just like, I'm finding things, but at the same time, I'm still like, would you stop expecting that from me, because that's not me.
Right. So you can see these two approaching walls, right? It's like, it's my poor expectations of what I've grew up to see a wife to be, and then it's Toya's, not understanding how she is disrespecting me. Even, like, think about this, disrespecting me from my poor expectations included into some things that are legit, right? So there are some things where I'm like, this is legit disrespect. But then there's also things that I was saying was disrespect that was not really legit. It was only because I was putting her in that poor, unhealthy expectation. Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
So so now you know us, Theodora. So
Well, and this is really good, because a lot of what people, you'll find that at the end of a lot of marriages, you'll hear men saying like, I didn't know that there was a problem, and you'll hear a lot of women saying, well, I kept saying it, I kept telling you, and it sometimes is the way that we're perceiving things is not the same way as they're being heard when you're saying them. And so it's about putting a lot of definitions to them. I actually attended a relationship workshop that my friend hosted. It was called a values workshop, and she had us narrow it down to like our top 3 values and had us put concrete definitions to them. It was so hard. So definitions and exact examples, right? And that really made it clear that, I could be thinking this one thing, but if I say this to my partner, they won't get it unless I give them examples. Right.
Exactly.
Right. So. Right. And it's interesting that you mentioned, that women are the ones that typically say something and the man is not aware until later. See, Toya, we have this joke, and I don't really think it's a fun joke, but we're completely opposite. She's like, I had more the woman, scenario. And she was acting more like how a traditional man would act in the relationship, right? And that was also an issue because we tried to bring our community in to help us, and they couldn't help us because they thought that I was tripping. Like, man, you're a dude, man. Like, you don't act like this, and I'm just like, nah, man. Like, my emotions and my state of mind is valuable, right? And I need to be respected, right? And so it was really tough to have our community to support us because of that flip flop. Toya is she's nonchalant. She doesn't really want to communicate.
I had to learn how to communicate. I had to learn myself. I had to learn, like, what do I even like, or how do I express myself? How do I even feel about this? Because I grew up in a house where communication wasn't big. So we might go to a movie and a model look at me and say, what did you think of this movie? And I'm like, it was good. It was good. And I'm ready to move on. What we doing next? And he's like, well, wait a minute. That's all you have to say? What did you think? And I'm just like, it was a movie. It was entertainment. Like, are we going to have a discussion about this? Like,
what's the thing? I wanted to fall in love with your mind. Like
And see, but
I'm a what is that, sapiosexual, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm as sexually attracted to intelligence.
Right. And
Right.
see, I was not on that level.
Yeah.
It took me years to understand, and again, years to even understand how to articulate myself. Because he might ask me a question and I'm just like, I don't know, because I grew up saying I don't know and not having to really think about it. And so being married to him, who is a strong communicator, that I'm just like,
I don't know about all of that.
Now I need to really, really figure out, like, how do I feel? Do I? And another thing I had to learn was, what are my true love languages? Because
oh yeah, Dr. Chapman's book was, we
the
used
5
that.
love languages.
Yeah, that was
now,
good.
of course, we read the book.
Yeah.
We knew I knew what I thought were my love languages. But after our marriage was restored, that was when I realized I literally only mirrored my mother's love languages. My mother needed help with acts of service. She needed help with the finances. And that was, acts of service was really like the top one for her. And Ahmad pretty much does that naturally, but I thought that was mine and it's not, So then I was just like, wow, like, no, I really do. I wouldn't mind having gifts, or I really do enjoy physical touch. But see, years ago, I would say, oh no, those are at the bottom.
Right.
But now I'm like, no, actually, no,
that's what you like. And see, Theodora, like, that was so important because I like, when we first got into the marriage, from dating and all of that, like again, I'm doing what I saw my parents do.
Right.
My father showered my mom with all kinds of like love and admiration, and this is what I saw, and I took that to the level of providing gifts, and I would write poetry. Like, this is me naturally. I'm naturally the guy that's loyal. I'm gonna write you poems. I'm gonna send you flowers. I'm gonna send you. I'm gonna do little surprises, little mysteries. So while I'm doing this early in our marriage, she's like nonchalant and telling me I don't like flowers. I don't like any of this, because
I used to say, I don't want any flowers. They're just gonna die.
Like, I used to say that.
I used to say that all the time. Don't give me any flowers. They're gonna die. It's just a waste of money. Don't worry about that. Give me something that's gonna
last.
Yes. I'm telling, like, I would go all out, like get her chocolates. I would put it in the shape of a heart. I would do like rose petals and having it on the floor. So when she walk in from work, because she used to work late overnights, so she would come home and walk on flower petals to the bed, and
yeah.
What did I say?
Oh my God. It's like a mirror.
It was the paper cut.
Yep. All of that.
Ooh, but we are so good now, though. Woo. Yes, we are so good now.
That's so awesome. You know what? I need a master class from Toya, because that's an older child syndrome. That sounds like me to a T. It's hilarious.
Man, it's real. It's real.
Yeah, that's how it was. Yeah. Wow.
Man,
that's so crazy. It's just interesting to see, like, the introspection that y'all have, and how you've been able to own and kind of just accept and laugh now about the things that
because it wasn't funny in 2017.
No, it wasn't. When it finally, because it's like it's growing a pimple in your marriage, and then at some point in time, that pimple is either going to hurt first, and then he's going to have to pop. Right. And then you have to clean up the mess, and then it has to heal. So that's kind of like what happened in our marriage. Was like it started to have pain, and then we had to pop that pimple. And actually, the pimple popped, but we were very intentional to clean it up and just not allow it to just sit there, And I think, like, that's when, like, our relationship with God really, like, grew. Like, that's when we knew, like, if you're a Christian or not, right? For us, like, in our experience, based off what we were doing, because if we didn't own up to our own issues, then it's like we would have been hypocritical to our faith, right? Like, just individually. Like, if Toy didn't own up to her situation, it's like, come on, seriously? And same with me. It's like, come on, I have to realize, like, I in our unique situation, I was just as guilty as Toya, right? And she had to take some blame too. And we sat down and we worked together. We said, okay, you know what? If we continue on this road, this 8-year-old that we have back here that just want to hang around us, is going to grow up not good, you know?
Yeah.
And I also said that we probably would not be good.
Right.
You know, just because of the nature of our relationship, how we got into the marriage, and just who we are, right? Like we knew who we are. Like especially me, like Toya's like you are a godly man, you know, and I'm gonna fight for this godly man in this situation because this is not who you are, right? Because I snapped, right? So I think when we became intentional to work on our marriage together, I think that's the unique thing because, you know, Toya and I, we do marriage advice and we don't see that happen a lot. We always see one spouse is willing to work it out and the other one is just acting a donkey, you know? And so I think for our situation, because we both, we weren't so far gone, I guess, to where we didn't have the right headspace to say, let's work on it simultaneously. And I feel like that is so huge to say, hey, your issue is not the same as mine, but because you have this issue, it's triggering mine. And because I have my issue, it's triggering yours.
Absolutely.
You know? And if we worked on it together, then it's like we both improve and we're both healing each other simultaneously. And that's how you got into the marriage together. So why not heal and improve together? And I think when we got to that moment, you know, we went through 3 months of like hating each other.
Yeah, but really digging deep every day and being intentional every single day. And because what I want to say is, Amai keeps saying, you know, it's like a paper cut or like a wound that was growing. My disrespect, you know, my belittling him, my trying to have control over everything, you know, all of that was those wounds, right? And then what happened in 2017 was then I found out that there was someone else.
Right.
You know, and so I like to tell people it's like my abuse, emotional abuse towards him for those years was like a wound that was just growing, right? But then when I found out about infidelities, that was when, for me, it was like a big gunshot wound.
Like, boom, you get instant pain.
And so that's what I like to tell people, because and this is just our experience, because everybody's different. But for me, that's how I was able to say, after I was able to get over the initial hurt and pain of, oh my goodness, there's someone else.
Right.
After I was able to get over that, I was just in deep prayer, like, Lord, what do I do? You know, what is the next step? Do I leave? Because that's everybody's first thought is, when this happens, that's it.
Right.
You know, but then God really reminded me of all those times that he was honest with me and said, hey, you know, let's talk about this, or I'm really having a problem with this. And I just dismissed him.
Right.
So when I was able to reflect back and look at all those times that I dismissed him or called him a middle child or said, you too sensitive for years, then I'm like, so this is the same thing. Like, I am in pain right now, but he's been in pain this whole time.
Right.
And so that was when I was able to say, okay, like, no, because I can look back and remember the man that I married.
Right.
And this man is not him. This is a broken, angry, hurt man. And I need to put in the work to say, okay, let's be better than what we ever were. Like, let's make sure our foundation is strong. We thought it was strong then, serving in church and doing all those things.
Right.
But no, for real, we gonna do this right.
Do it correctly.
And so that's why I tell women all the time, like, first, of course, you have to get over the initial shock if you're dealing with infidelity.
Right.
But then you have to say, has this been the norm in the marriage?
Right.
Or is he just broken and this is his fallout? This is just what happened from the effect of something. Now, it's never a wife's fault, because a man could choose anything.
Any kind of way to express his discontent, right?
Right.
So I chose a foolish way to express my discontent. But, you know, you could choose other things, like
some people choose eating. Some people choose drugs, alcohol.
Right,
you know, it's like everybody has an outlet that they choose, or just porn itself. And so I'm just like, so that's why I'm like, you can't look at it like, oh, this is the be all end all. No, this is just the one that was chosen this time.
Right,
you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. So I love how Toy, when she talks to women, because you have to sit back and think about, you know, it's like, okay, well, this is what he does. This is the pain that I have. but if you compare, like what Toy said, is like, it was to us, it was like this was synonymous. It was like she was feeling the pain in one instant
Right.
that I grew to get to that same threshold. It was like the
Yeah.
threshold was still the same, right? And that's why I think in our unique situation, we were able to come together. And we find in other marriages, we're not the only ones. It's just flip flop, right, Theodore? So it's like usually it's it'll be like the woman may step out because the man is not doing his, building up, right?
Yes.
So he's disrespecting her, he's hurting her, doing this, blah blah blah. So then she gets broken down,
Yes.
and then she finally steps out.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no one was there to support me, no one was listening to me. The same situation that like let me tell you something though. If you want to talk about gender inequality, if a woman steps out and you find out it's because the man has been disrespecting the woman, then she is not looked bad for stepping out. As it's like they will be like, oh man, you shouldn't have cheated, but man, he's been disrespecting you, girl. Like, you should have left him years ago. Blah 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 blah. I don't like the way he's talking to you, whatever. But when a man is going through that and he's being loyal and he's being disrespected, then he step out. There is like no grace for that dude.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they assume that it's just the habit of a man.
Yeah, they just think that he's cheating because he's a man cheating.
Right.
And it's just like, that's the miseducation of masculinity right there.
It really is. And you know what? I was right there in Ahmad's shoes, actually. And I just have to commend you, Toya, because a lot of times what you'll see happen is the victim role comes up and you really like went introspective. And that is like extremely difficult, right? To go in like that and you didn't accept responsibility for his actions, but you had a real reflection on it, right? Because obviously there's something there. But that pattern shift that you talked about really looking at who he's been this entire time. That's big, because sometimes we can't get over those big blowouts, right? Like we magnify that so much, and and actually I had another guest like several weeks ago, and she was talking about how we need to heal before we leave our marriages if we decide to go through with divorce.
So true.
Because that co-parenting, because your actual health is on the line if you don't heal those things before you go through divorce. But I also want to encourage anybody listening, like, heal now. Like, I went back and actually had a full-on conversation with my ex-husband, and we apologized for a lot of the things we did to each other.
Wow.
That's good.
Wow.
And it just it gives you more life, it gives you more health, and so you don't have to just stop inside the marriage. So anybody that's listening and you're beyond the point that Ahmad and Toya are at, you could still go back and heal those things. Right? um Yeah, you guys are like awesome. This is hard to do. So this is good stuff, you guys.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for allowing us to share our story. It's our testimony now, so that we can help other couples.
Yeah.
And, we just try to help level the playing field, right? Because like we said, it's like you don't take responsibility for the action of another.
Right.
But maybe you might want to think about, have you created the environment to help the spouse get to whatever it is that they're into? And if you kind of take that approach, because that was really tough when Toy and I was having these conversations, because again, our community was not really, there were some of them were supportive, but they were also hurt, right? So I don't blame them for their pain, but they were not listening, because it looked like, oh, this is just a man who cheated.
Right.
They were not paying attention to the what was really going on. And so when we work with married couples, we say, hey, you have to kind of have to go through the initial pain, right? Because we don't want to dismiss that pain, right? From the man or for the woman's side, right? But then you also have to do, and I do this to men all the time, it's like, did you create the environment for her to flourish? And then we say the same thing to our sisters. It's like, are you creating the environment that helps him flourish? Because if you are a nagging wife for 14 years and he steps out, it's like, come on, like you nagged him for 14 years. It's like, I'm not saying that what he did is right, but you were nagging him for 14 years, you know? Yeah. And same thing with a dude. Like if you're like disrespecting a woman a lot and you know, not allowing her to flourish and she's a flower, you need to plant her in good soil. You need to keep that soil nurtured. If she, you know, starts to go off on the deep end, you know, it's like it's not. I mean, you got to hold her accountable for her action. But brother, like you created that environment. You're the leader of the home. You know, so that's how when we you know mentor couples, we try to get them one to okay acknowledge your pain is legit, and then we try to say now after you know you get to that point of acknowledging your pain, it's like now look in the mirror. Like see like what kind of person did you represent in front of your spouse?
And was your house a safe space? I mean, really that's all, you know, you were pretty much saying is was it a safe space? Because if not, it's always somebody out there that's gonna find a hole and try to fill it. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
I mean, I shouldn't have said that.
I mean, you
but
know, that's
but it makes sense. It's kind of like when you know? When I would tell people sometimes you get out of a relationship and you pick like 2 or 3 things that you didn't like about your ex-partner and you magnify that with the new partner. It's the same
and that's
concept.
all it is. So it's like why get better for someone else when you get better for the one that you know? But we understand like not every situation is like that. And see, Theodore, this is why I absolutely love what you're doing is because even though, you know, you've been, you know, your situation with your ex-husband and all, you're still on the platform fighting for marriages. You know what I'm saying? And like that is, you know, commendable, right? So so like I have to just applaud you for that, right? So I mean, no, seriously, you know, because you know, you're not bitter, you're out here, you understand the institution of marriage. And we talk about how don't get advice from single people, but you are always my exception. You're my exception. I'm like, nope, because Theodora's not going to allow you to leave that easy. She's going to hold you accountable. She's going to fight for your marriage, you know, but you're going to also listen to reason and, you know, and all of that. And then another thing that I say is like, this is also a woman that knows how to be feminine and aggressive at the same time. So that's like, I'm just saying, you know, like, you know, you're my only exception to the rules that I use. So
that's good.
So yeah, it's good. It's really good. So
yeah. I mean, I just think that because I'm a Christian, I don't know. I just couldn't feel. I think I shared this with Ahmad before. I was like, you know, shadowing some different divorce, you know, mediators and coaches and things like that. And I know it would help facilitate a healthy dynamic for, you know, people going through a divorce. But I'm still on the fence about like if that's something I want to participate in because I really believe that marriage is possible again. I believe that, you know, preparing for it and, you know, planning for it even while you're in it is possible again, you know? So I don't know, go back and forth on that because I just believe that, I don't know, there's a person for people, there's a person for somebody, you know, and it doesn't have to, you know, fall apart just because of your past and, you know, what you feel like you don't deserve anymore. Right.
Right. I mean, you read a lot of those letters that we listen to, so we know.
Yeah. Some are mine, so I'm not gonna tell y'all which ones. But
I wasn't gonna tell anybody. Look,
I slipped up one day and almost told them which one it was on accident. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute."
Oh my
gosh. So let's we're on the subject of of healing, right? And I know that when we get into relationships, when we get into marriage, we can't always anticipate everything that's going to come up for our partners. But what would you say if, you know, a friend came to you guys and told you, hey, Ahmad, hey, Toya, I want you to meet this person I'm dating. You know, I'm kind of wanting you to vet them for me and see if they're a good fit and tell me your honest opinion, right? And then you share your honest opinion. The honest opinion is not, of course, what the person wants to hear because they wanted you to co-sign, right? And the person comes back to you and they say that they feel like they can heal this person, right? Because the advice is to heal separately. You could be friends, but heal separately and then maybe get back together if you still want to be together. So tell me kind of how you guys would, you know, advise someone that wants to try to heal someone, especially when they're not married yet? Like,
Yeah,
let's talk
yeah,
about that.
absolutely. Yeah, you want to go? You want
No,
to take
go
this
ahead.
first? You want to take it? So typically, I mean, I, the way that I mentor a married someone who wants to get married
Mm-hmm.
is you can get a lot of information just from one person, and I just kind of discern what the other person is doing, right? So if I'm in this situation and my sister comes to me and she's like, "Hey, brother Ahmad, like I can heal this guy," based off the context clues of what I'm hearing, I would first customize my response to that situation, and a lot of times that works because I would have known enough information from the relationship to deter them from wanting to heal someone. So if I'm going to give that advice in general, then the first thing what I would do is you have to set a time. I say create a list and set a deadline, and you can do this secretly. You don't tell this to the person that you're dating.
Yeah.
And what you do is you say, okay, I want to create a list of things that I want this person to be healed from, right? And go for it while you're dating. Go for it and set a deadline on when you want to start seeing those behaviors start to change or to be healed. And if you see that those behaviors starts to change with your influence and you're seeing that he's receptive to it, then yes, continue towards marriage. But if you don't see it in that deadline that you have, then you're going to be able to make a decision that can say, okay, I don't see that he's willing to make this change in this 90-day period that I'm giving him secretly, right? And I'm asking him to change in these areas that I want him on my list that he doesn't even know that I'm paying attention to, right? And if you don't see it, now you have that decision to say, am I willing to deal with a man that won't change? Because he has a habit that most likely will not change in that area. And so then you can expect what kind of marriage you're going to be in. And I would say don't marry a man that won't change while you're dating.
Yeah, and that's a testament to somebody's work ethic too, because it's what you're doing when nobody's looking, right? And
Yeah.
are you actually making those changes? That's really good.
Yep, absolutely. So that's the advice I'll tell you to all my sisters is, and do it secretly.
Yeah,
Don't
quietly.
tell them
Don't
your
tell people
game.
your deadline. Because
Yeah,
it's all people can behave for 90 days and perform for 90 days, but after
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. And the thing is, I understand, our sisters, they you all have timelines. A lot of them. I know me and you had this conversation before about the timeline, but most women have a timeline that they want to have to get married because they want to have kids.
Yeah.
So you should set those timelines a little bit shorter so that you can make a faster decision on whoever you're dating, because most women can date multiple men, and you can make a lot of decisions,
Yeah.
so yeah, so I
That's
say,
interesting advice, because you hear a lot of people saying, don't date multiple people. If you want to date multiple people, don't date me. And just want to correct everybody. Dating is a vetting process. It's not meaning you hooking up with everybody that you're going on a date with.
come
And
on,
that's where the
yeah,
issue is, I think.
Exactly.
no date,
It's like,
meet a lot of
do
people,
not.
whatever. Yeah, don't put all your eggs in one basket, pun
And
intended.
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Oh,
Fired.
goodness.
You're fired.
Look, I'm trying to help you, sis. I'm trying to help you get this out, man. Like, I'm trying to
It's
help you.
true. It's true. Date
And
around, see what you
sex is
like.
only going to confuse everything,
It confuses
with
yeah.
with the dopamine, endorphins, and all that.
Right.
It's just like,
And not only that, you won't know if he's coming back to you because of your personality or because of the sex.
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So that's really important, why you don't want to have that on the table while you're making decisions. You want to see if he's being loyal to you because of you.
Yeah.
Right.
And then when you know that he's loyal to you, you'll be married, and then you can have all the sex you want because he's coming back to you because he loves you and you're now his wife and all that. So
Right.
I mean, I know the Bible is archaic with that, wait till marriage thing, whatever, but the principles still work.
Yeah, the
So
principle is good. Take your time, and I think
yeah,
again, as people are in the dating world, whatever your goal is, be very clear about that, because
Yeah.
that's going to influence how you're out there. You know, like I went through a period where I just wanted to get to know people because I didn't really want to be with anybody, you know?
Yeah.
So you got to like know where you're at in that process, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then I want to ask one more question, one final, I think, really important question.
The final Jeopardy.
Yeah, the final double Jeopardy, right? What's your bid? So why do people self-sabotage their own relationships?
Just talked about this. Go ahead, Toya. Why do people self-sabotage?
I was gonna say you go first.
But I mean, we did a show on this on the relationship self-sabotage. You remember the show? You don't remember the show, do you? We might have recorded. I think we recorded the episodes. We haven't launched it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe like you can give a little. Don't too many spoilers.
Yeah, that's a spoiler, right? Exclusive on Single or Divorce. All right, so why do people self-sabotage? I think it's because of fear. I think it all comes from fear, you know. And I don't I'm a self-saboteur, you know. Maybe not necessarily in the relationships, but when I was dating, I would self-sabotage in relationships when I was dating until I overcame my fear of different things about myself. But I think that's just bottom line what it is whenever you get to a certain point of the relationship, you know, you will do something to try to, you know, either play it down or to slow down the progress or something like that. Like we're known generally for breaking up with a woman around the holiday, you know, because it's that fear. It's like, man, you know, here comes Valentine's Day. And whatever the fear is, like, I can't afford the type of gift I need to get her, or she's going to want to take this relationship to the next level or something like that. So it's like, we'll do something stupid to try to get her to say, you know, I don't want to date you anymore because, you know, you're acting like a donkey, right? So, you know, so men are known generally to self-sabotage because, you know, of our fear of commitment, right? And not wanting to go on to the next level. So I think fear.
One more question then.
Go for it. Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
How often? Because you know, they tell us don't believe that they're afraid of commitment. But how often is that more true than not? You think?
Okay, yeah, that's why I put that in air quotes. So for anyone listening to the podcast, they're like, okay, I'm not scared of commitment, right? So no, that's in air quotes, right? So fear in air quotes of commitment, because men really are not scared, okay, in general. You know, whenever I hear this thing where when a woman says men are intimidated by me, it's like, no, we're not. We're making choices and we're choosing not to be around you.
Yeah.
So if a man is, you know, trying to break up with a woman, self-sabotaging, it's because he feels like he's not ready. A lot of times a man does not feel like he's ready or worthy or valuable for the relationship. You know, a lot of times that's what it is, especially if you've been with the woman for like over a year and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, you know, it's like, come on, like this is just coming out of the blue. Like, yeah, a lot of times it's you know, it's still fear, but not fear of the woman. It's just fear because men don't want to ever be found out to be something less than what we put out. Because remember, our males, we come out, we want to show our feathers and our peacocks, and we want to puff our chest and say that we're the best pick, right? So then when you start to get into the relationship, you get to, you know, you're chipping the armor a little bit. So then when we finally just can't hold that up anymore, we're going to sabotage the relationship. So that's another way how men will self-sabotage, you know. So I don't know, how do women, Toya, self-sabotage?
Why you cook me?
I don't know. I mean, I'm not a woman.
Oh man.
Okay, can I talk about a situation that I mean, no disrespect to the marriage, but I remember I was dating a girl and she sabotaged our relationship.
How?
Because it was like, I think she liked another guy, right? And tell me if this is something that you would do. I think she was dating me because I was convenient. And she really liked this other guy, right? And I was treating her better than this other guy, and she knew it. So anytime I did something good, she would like find something wrong.
Of
She was
course.
always
Oh
trying to
yeah.
find flaws in me, you know? And I'm sitting here, and then I remember, the reason why I remember this is because she kept saying, she's like, I'm trying to find what's wrong with you. And and she, you know me, Toya, paper cut, paper cut, paper cut, paper cut. And after a while, I'm gonna snap. So then she found something wrong with me, and then we ended up breaking up, and then she ended up, you know, trying to go back with the other guy or whatever, you know. So it was, you know, she needed to find someone else to blame for the breakup.
Yeah, she needed a good reason.
Yeah, yeah.
An excuse.
So I would think a way that a woman would self-sabotage in general maybe would be trying to find flaws in a good guy.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And especially because I guess a lot of the time we want so much, you know, like you want the money, you want the career, you know, you or him to have the career, you want him to have the look, you want him to have the personality, you know, you want so much. So then if he doesn't do one little thing, you just like, okay, never mind, I'm out. You know, let me find somebody better.
Find somebody like,
just
you think it's green on the other side, right?
In marriage, you know, like this man does so many good things, and a lot of husbands do, but then we get upset because he didn't take the trash. You know, it's like then it'll be something small, and we have just made it just a really big thing instead of looking at all the good that's really going on.
Right,
you know,
right.
we want to really blow up those little things.
Looking for that perfect guy, right? Like you're looking for that perfect guy. He got to fit all your check marks and stuff.
Right.
And it's like, and it's okay to have a list, but have a moral list. You know, have a list of like morals. That's what we talk about, you know,
the character, the values.
Yeah, have some good. Have a list of character values versus having a list of how much money is he making, how tall is he, you know, does he have to have a golden skin or whatever. Fortunately, I hit those 3 marks for Toya, you know, but not everyone can, you know.
Anyway.
You better hype yourself up. Well, you know what? I tell people to have like 3 lists, right? You have your, you know, must-haves, your deal breakers, and your bonuses, which is the more physical things. Like if he happens to be 6'5" and he happens to be dark skinned and he, you know,
right.
Tall, dark, and handsome. You got it, Toy. I'm your cup of coffee. with that French vanilla cream in it. Yeah, parlez-vous français, ma jolie?
Get your Robin Thicke on over here.
I know. Like, here we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
She like, that's enough.
See, Theodore, she doesn't see this side of me. She don't get to see this side of me.
Yeah.
She always sees me as the podcast mentor. I'm serious. You know, we're doing this, you know. But now,
I don't think you're that serious, Ahmad.
Oh, well, no, I'm really not that serious. You're right.
Oh, that's hilarious.
That's true.
I'm serious. No, you're not.
This is my fake way of being serious, you know, so. Oh man, it's good. That's good. So yeah, man. So I think ultimately I think, you know, that's why we sabotage is, I think men is we're just still choosing. We're still looking for something. And I think that's the same reason for a woman to sabotage is really she's still holding out for something. She's, you know, I say they're holding out, maybe waiting for that one guy to come back and drop down to one knee or something, you know, and a man is still choosing. He's still looking. You know, he hasn't made his decision yet. So,
well, I would advise everybody before you get more serious with someone, leave them alone if you're still looking. And, you know, like if they're not on your list, they're not on your list. I know people like to put placeholders, but they're not the person.
Yeah. That's true.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. You know, if he's still looking, then you just need to just relax, just put him in the friend zone, you know, and just be cool. And but sis, if you're holding out for a guy or whatever, that might be equally dangerous, you know, because, you know, he might still be looking and you're holding out for a guy that's still looking, you know, and a man will keep a woman around because she's a potential option and continue looking. And with you having a deadline, if you have a deadline, you know, you'll be 32, 33 years old and, you know, you missed out on some other good men who may only be making $45,000 a year at 4'9".
Yeah, I don't know about 4'9", but
I know. Wait a minute.
I'll be putting them on my shoulders.
All right,
but you know what? I'm sorry. Whatever you say, God, I don't know.
Right.
5'4". We give him 5'4".
5'4", okay.
We give him 5'4".
Now with me almost at 6 feet over here.
Oh man, that's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Well, this was awesome. And any like closing remarks that you guys want to share, or just some golden nuggets you want to drop on everybody before you leave?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, Toya always got some. She always got that wisdom.
I heard it. I was like, "Where is it?"
See, this is when I be like, I be falling in love with this brain when she be
oh
like,
my
God. Not with the head rev.
If I could just do this.
Oh my God.
That brain, when that brain start going, that's it. But no, I do want to plug our podcast, The Relation Shop. You can find it on all platforms. And of course, you can find Toya on Instagram at Toya _ marriage advice. And just ultimately, if you're married, know your spouse. Know your spouse, know your spouse, know your spouse. Have weekly meetings to kind of gauge your relationship. That's probably really what helped us out in a bind, are those weekly meetings. Just kind of ask, how do you feel about this? How well am I doing as a spouse this week? What can I do to improve in that area as a spouse? Have those types of meetings. Like, that's really powerful.
Those are definitely the questions we ask each other every week.
Whenever we were, especially when we were in our issue. So, and then if you're single, then just kind of put in some, especially sis, put in those parameters on what kind of guy you're looking for. Set a deadline. And if you don't see progress in your relationship within that deadline, then you have a decision to make if you want to continue that relationship or not. But just know, if you continue, you know what you're going to get into. Right. So once you're married, there's no such thing as I didn't know. It's just pretty much, there were red flags, there were yellow flags, and we all do it. You see the yellow and red flags, we did it, and we still got married.
Right.
So no, we're not judging you. We're not trying to put you down, make you feel bad. It's just not, now you can, if you're single, better now, right? And you can prepare yourself to be better, have a better foundation when you're married. And it's okay to be single also, is the last thing. It's like, single life is really like the high life, be okay with being single. You can get a lot more done. You can save the world when you're single. Once you're married, you got to worry about, your life, your spouse's life. And if you have kids, your kids' life, so you have multiple worlds that you got to deal with. When you're single, you're only dealing with your own. And that's a blessing that you can have. So find some peace and comfort in your singleness, and don't worry about trying to find someone. Just enjoy your life, and if somebody pop around, then put them to the test. And, so yeah, that's my words of wisdom. Do you agree, disagree? You want to add something to it?
I agree, and I just want to say, know yourself. Be patient with yourself, whether you're single or in a marriage. Know yourself, so that way you can have more clarity, give more grace, have more patience, and communicate.
That's it.
That was it. Thank you, guys.